It is firmly silly season when it comes to the world of football transfers, and it's a glorious, wonderful world where all sorts of different things can happen, but this story is one that weirdly makes complete sense from a Leeds United perspective, some sense from the perspective of the selling club, and a lot of sense from the player's perspective. So I thought I'd have a little bit of a deep dive into Leeds United's reported interest in signing Jeremy Monga. Jeremy Monga is an English right winger who is currently 16 years of age, and whilst he might not have the most impressive numbers recently, the fact that he's able to do those numbers at the age of 16 is very impressive. He had 27 appearances in the Championship last season, which is honestly pretty damn solid, with 3 goal involvements involved in those. A little under 1,000 minutes, but that's going to happen. He's 16 years old. I quite like players not being run into the dirt. The season before that, he managed to get himself 7 Premier League appearances at the age of 14, 15. I'm not entirely sure what his specific age was at that point, but that explains why he is a very, very highly regarded player with a very, very high ceiling. And this is where Leicester's fortunes come into play. Because a couple of seasons ago, the reason that he was able to get these Premier League minutes was the fact that Leicester City were high and flying and up in the Premier League and looking alright, and admittedly in a relegation battle, and they did go down. That put them into the Championship, and as a Premier League side that goes down, you immediately think, okay, cool, we'll just go up again. We can hold on to our young, promising talents. And that's what Leicester's approach will have been, because Jeremy Monga didn't leave that summer, and he played a little bit of football there, over half of the games that were available to him, but Leicester's performances didn't improve and they slipped and they got worse, and they ended up in a situation where they got relegated again after a fairly significant points deduction that, if I remember right, they would have gotten relegated even without the points deduction. But Leicester are in financial trouble right now. Jeremy Monger is at a League One squad, and he is significantly better than that in the long term. Admittedly, at the moment, if a club were to sign him, he might go out on loan to a League One side. But his future doesn't lie in League One, so there's a little bit of a question mark around his future to be had, and that is where Leeds United come in. So, normally, you would look at EFL talent and think that they are probably below where we are, unless they are a player that is massively outperforming the Championship, or it's a team that went down last season, didn't manage to come up this season. So if Southampton don't come up again, maybe you take a look at someone like a Leo Cienza. That's what you potentially do. But with the youth of Monga, the height of the ceiling of Monga, and Leicester's current position, it would be incredibly daft to not take a look, because one, they're a distressed seller, but I'll get to that in a moment's time, but two, he doesn't actually have a professional contract at Leicester City, because you're not allowed to sign your first professional contract with a football club until you are 17 years old. Monga turned 17 at some point in July. I believe it was the 10th, but I'll just have a double check to make sure I'm 100% right. The 10th, yes. So he doesn't have a professional contract at Leicester City until the 10th of July at the earliest, which means that in theory, someone can just pluck him out of Leicester City, sign him straight up without any issues. Now, if you follow that route, then you potentially go through the arbitration direction where Leicester get a little bit of compensation for developing the player initially, which is always a situation that's a little bit complicated and can lead to you paying a little bit over what you want to. But there have been reports that came out of the Leicester Mercury, which is on the Leicester side, a newspaper that sort of focuses on football stuff a lot of the time, that said that they would be willing to let him go for £6 million. Now, if you are looking at any footballer that is 16 years of age, as impressive as he is, with 34 senior appearances, 7 of which are in the Premier League, and you're being offered him for £6 million, any club would bite your hand off. It's one of those moves that makes complete sense, and it makes sense in a position that we kind of need long-term support in. Admittedly, 16 years old, he's not going to immediately jump into the first team. We know this, that's just common sense. He'll play in the 21s for a bit, he'll hover around the bench, that kind of stuff. But Leeds have been looking for someone to play on the right wing for a while. At the moment, we don't really have a starting right winger. We've got Brendan Aronson, but he tends to play on the inside, with Bogle going up the outside and hitting those overlaps consistently. Monga would be a pure right winger who has a little bit of experience playing on the inside as well, which is the sort of thing that we've been looking for in recent windows, for example, the Harry Wilson thing. And he's one of those project players that you sign. He wouldn't be the main signing that you get on the right wing. Without a doubt, it would be a case of you sign him and someone to start in the sort of number 10 right flank position, because that way you cover both of the eventualities. But he's the kind of player that you sign for the future. And Daniel Farke mentioned in a press conference a few weeks back that what we've had to do so far is sign in that 27, 28-year-old bracket that have a lot of footballing experience, that are proven qualities, that are nice tall boys that will win the set pieces for you. But he mentioned in this presser that it's one of the pleasures of being a longer-term Premier League side that you get to develop this talent a little bit further. So we couldn't risk playing Harry Gray at any point this season because he's not ready for the Premier League yet, and if we play him and he messes up, then what do we get? We get an injured youth player and potentially fewer points in the Premier League. Going forward, once we cement that position, players like Monga, players like Gray will be able to get more and more minutes as they're introduced. The only reason Arsenal have been able to take a look at the likes of Nwaneri or Dauman is because they're in a very, very comfortable, healthy position where they bring them on where they're already winning games of football. Dauman, completely different story, ridiculous talent. I'm not going to doubt that in the slightest. But the same concept applies of when you're safe and secure and happy and healthy, that's where there stops being the question of, are we able to actually play these players? And it becomes more of a, which of these players do we pick? So, for example, at the weekend, we had a weaker bench, sure, but it's a bench that featured Reece Chadwick, who is a very, very, very talented midfielder, and Jayden Lainu, who is an incredible fullback. Admittedly, missing both of our senior fullbacks was probably an issue there. But we're safe from relegation, which means that we can play these players. And I think next season we're looking to push on, we're looking to sign more talent, we'll be not the favourites to get relegated, which is incredibly important. And that's where we'll be able to prove that point. And that's where we'll be able to play some of those younger players, and that's where Monger fits in my opinion. 21's for the bulk of the season, maybe we send him out on loan somewhere, I don't know. But for the extended term, for the sake of the likes of PSR or squad cost ratio or whatever it's going to be next season, I'm going to take a deep dive into that soon enough. Someone like a Monga that you can sign for £6 million, inevitably sell for a profit down the line, is what we need to be doing. So for me, this makes sense for us. It makes sense for Leicester because they are financially knacked. League One's revenues are nothing, and they're going to have to sell a lot of their squad, including Monger, and he will be pure profit for them. So that makes pure sense for them as well, and it makes sense for Monger because he'd have a better environment to develop in. His ceiling at Leicester isn't, you might get Premier League minutes anymore, it's, you might play in League One. Whereas we can say, we can offer you Premier League minutes, if you fancy, we'll loan you to the Championship, we'll loan you to League One. That's not something Leicester are able to do. It is something that we are, however, and hopefully it's a move that we get done, because it's one that I really like the look of. But as always, that's just my opinion. The cat's walked in the room, so you might be able to hear some meowing. If you enjoyed the video, pop a like in it, that'd be massively appreciated. Subscribe if you haven't yet, become a channel member, all that kind of stuff. Daniel Farke's press conference is coming tomorrow, so I'll do something covering that. I might do something on Lois Apenda at some point soon, because that's an interesting one too. Hope you all enjoyed. I will see you later. Toodaloo. Iris, chill. You're okay. I fed you already, and you can't eat my chicken wings. Ta-ra.